Good morning, everybody. Buongiorno a tutti. A few days ago in Paris, I came across a very interesting news. French court forbade parents from naming their daughter Nutella. They considered the name against the interest of the child and renamed her Ella. Same sort happened to a baby girl by the name of Fraise, which in French means strawberry. I always had a passion for names. I think it comes from my own story. My name is Marina. I was given that name because my father's only sister, Marina, tragically passed away when she was only 25 years old. My family was devastated, and my grandmother, my beloved nonna, wore black till the end of her life. In Italy, it is, or I should say it was, common and regarded as respectful to name a child by the name of a relative or a grandfather. At the time, parents could not know in advance if it was going to be a baby boy or a baby girl. But in my case, my parents had no doubt I had to be a girl because my name, Marina, had been waiting for me for 10 years already, and they guessed right. Every Sunday, I used to accompany my grandmother to the cemetery. In the beginning, it was really scary to see my name and my family name in golden letters written on that white marble. And it was really heartbreaking to see my beloved grandmother crying every time she was reading that name. But you know, children have this sort of magic power to embellish reality. So one day, I got the revelation. My name was in fact a coded mission. I was asked to bring back the smile to my grandmother. I was born in Ortona, a small village on the Adriatic coast of Italy. During the Second World War, Ortona was the theater of one of the fiercest battles. Hitler had ordered German paratroopers to defend Ortona at any cost. On 28th of December 1943, after 1 week of harsh fighting, Canadian soldiers liberated Ortona. The town was destroyed, and Winston Churchill renamed it the Little Stalingrad. Years later, all what remained of the war were the memories of my grandfather, Giuseppe. He was prisoner in a German Nazi camp in Poland, where his name, Giuseppe, had been turned into a number, 104470. And then there was the Canadian War Cemetery. Teenager, I used to go there very often. I know you think I have something with cemeteries. Might be true. With its white graves and its colorful flowers, that place became my inspiration point. I used to sit always in the same place, close to the same soldier, Paul, Private, West Nova Scotia Regiment. 40 years after the end of the war, his name was still telling visitors about the ultimate sacrifice they made to liberate Italy. I think Paul was my first love. For sure, he was my life inspiration, because one day in front of his grave, I made an oath. Me too, I wanted to become a soldier. The only problem was that my country did not have women in uniform. Italy would have been the last NATO country to allow women in the army, and that only in 1999. By then, I had become a peacekeeper and was serving the United Nations in Kosovo. I was not wearing a uniform, but still, I was working hand in hand with 45,000 NATO soldiers. Bombing had stopped, but the conflict between the Albanian majority and the Serb minority was not solved yet. One of the first days after my arrival in Kosovo, I went on the site of a mass grave in the village of Suvido. The exhumation team was collecting pieces of objects and pieces of bodies. It was extremely hot, and I will never forget the odor of decaying bodies. nobody knew their names anymore. That day, in Suvido, I learned that human hatred is the only weapon capable of destroying names forever. But in Kosovo, a name could also be a death sentence. On 17th of April 2000, at 11:30 p.m., a rocket-propelled grenade, RPG-7, hit and destroyed my apartment in the center of Pristina. The explosion threw me on the floor, and the angle of deviation saved my life. The day after, a blonde lady visited me. "This rose is for you, Marina," she said. "Yesterday, you almost died in my place. My name, Sonja Nikolic." Sonja was a Serb journalist renting the apartment close to mine. She had created the only multi-ethnic radio in Kosovo, Radio Contact. Albanian extremists were trying to eliminate her, but one way or the other, every time she managed to survive. Tension between the Albanians and the Serbs was also exacerbated by a list of 4,000 names. They were the desaparecidos, the missing people. Every day, in the streets of Pristina, hundreds of mothers, wives, sisters were demonstrating to ask news about the fate of their relatives. And that one name written on a piece of paper was their only reason to live. And they were repeating it on and on as a sort of mantra, imploring Milosevic to liberate them. But in Kosovo, a name could also become a flag. My driver's name was Kosovo. His father was an Albanian political prisoner, and his mother was Serb. And they had decided to name their child Kosovo, hoping that one day the province would have become a country where both Albanian and Serbs would have been able to live together. After 2 years in Kosovo, in October 2003, I left for Iraq to join the Coalition Provisional Authority in charge of post-war reconstruction. The war has stopped, but the country was still shaken by guerrilla and bombings. At my arrival in Baghdad's airport, Full, Tango, and PG, the carabinieri in charge of my close protection, were waiting for me. The first thing they did was to give me a bulletproof vest and, most of all, a brand new code name. Now, you very well know that bodyguards assign a special code name to their protectees. In my case, they had picked up Eva because, they said, you are the first and only crazy woman in our embassy. I felt a bit like in front of Adam in the Genesis, when Adam is naming the animals and naming the wife, but you know what, in the end I accepted Eva and went along with it. Due to the conflict, hundreds of children had lost their parents, and Iraq had become the country of orphans. One day, I visited the orphanage in Al-Waziriya district. I wanted to meet with its stubborn director, Ami Hassan. During the war, she heard that the orphanage was about to be bombed. According to US military intelligence, dangerous weapons were hidden in the basement. So what she did? She took white bed sheets, colorful markers, and she wrote, "Here, no weapons, only children." And she hanged it on the balcony of the orphanage, and she saved the orphanage. It's precisely there that I met Bradley, 8 years old. Of course, Bradley was not his real name. One night, US Marines had found him while patrolling in the streets of Baghdad. They had embarked him on their Bradley tank and accompanied him to the orphanage. The boy seemed quite happy about his martial name, as if it was a sort of armor protecting him. I wanted to talk to Bradley and his friends, but I did not speak Arabic, and they did not speak English. So my bodyguard started to speak with their hands, and the children immediately understood we were Italians. And all of a sudden, they went like Del Piero, Buffon, Trezeguet, Nedved, all names of famous football players. We were amazed. That day in Baghdad, I learned that names of football players are a special language, a sort of universal Esperanto, allowing people to talk beyond age and borders. The day after, I called Juventus Football Club and asked them to send me a parcel of jersey, T-shirts for Bradley and his team. They put it on a military plane and it arrived a few days before Christmas. Italian troops were positioned in Nasiriyah, 400 kilometers southern of Baghdad. I used to go there once a week to work on reconstruction projects. One evening, at White Horse military bases in the middle of the desert, we were debriefing on the day's mission, when one of the soldiers said to me, "Eva, you would make a good soldier." "Thank you," I said, "but I was born too early, and now it's too late." "You're wrong. Look at me." His name was Lieutenant Ficucello. In his normal life, he used to work for a bank in Milan, but he was also a lieutenant reservist of the Italian army in charge of media. War had changed, and soldiers too. Modern warfare required brave warriors as well as journalists, translators, engineers, architects. I still had a chance to become a soldier. 2 days later, on 12th of November 2003, I was back in Baghdad when I received a phone call from Nasiriyah. A suicide attack had taken place against our troops. I was then asked to write down the names of the victims: Brigadier Fregosi, Brigadier Coletta, Lieutenant Ficucello, and so many other names. A few months later, I sent my application to the army. To prepare for that, I was watching the movie G.I. Jane on and rehearsing on burpees and push-ups. The military training was really hard. The boot camp on the Alps was terrible. One night, at minus 10 degrees Celsius, sleeping in the snow and in the mud, I simply broke down. Why the hell am I doing this? Then the voice of our drill sergeant came back to my mind, saying, "You better learn the name of your weakest comrade, because your platoon is only as strong as the weakest of your soldiers." So I only had one thing to do, to bite the bullet and go ahead. Finally, the day of the solemn oath arrived. I had promised this to Paul, the Canadian soldier. I did it. My name was not Marina anymore. I became Lieutenant Catena. This is my dog tag. How I longed to see my name written on this metal. In the summer 2007, I was sent to Lebanon as a blue helmet peacekeeper. And guess what? The name of the military bases where I was headquartered with my brigade, Folgore Paratroopers Brigade, was Lieutenant Massimo Ficucello. Here I am in the village of Al-Basuria. In Lebanon, so many wars have left so many scars on the population. And here, this beautiful Lebanese girl are explaining to me the meaning of their fabulous names. Lamia, the one with red lips. Amal, the hope. Nur, the light. Nawal, the gift. As if in war-torn countries, names become a sort of a gift that parents can make to their children. Something like a light legacy that you can take with you when it's bombing, and that will bring you good luck, hopefully. Most recently, in Paris, together with football player Zlatan Ibrahimovic, we launched an awareness campaign for the World Food Programme. 805 million people are suffering from hunger in the world today. While elaborating on the campaign, we were puzzled. How can we make people care about such a huge number? And then, all of a sudden, the idea came.
My name is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Wherever I go, people recognize me. Call my name. Cheer for me. But there are names no one cheers for. Carmen, Rahma, Antoine, Lida, Chewy, Mariko. If I could, I would write every single name on my body. But there are 805 million people suffering from hunger in the world today. Too many of them are children. They are struck by war, natural disasters, and extreme poverty. I have supporters all over the world. Beginning today, I want this support to go to the people who really need it. So whenever you hear my name, you will think of their names. Whenever you see me, you will see them.
Thank you. Thank you. By the way, Zlatan means the golden one. What I shared with you today is what I like to call my constellation of names. Each one of us has his own. One thing I forgot to tell you, I did accomplish my coded mission. I didn't bring back the smile to my grandmother, and in fact, she lived up to 94 years old. But what is the future of names? Today, parents are becoming more and more creative when naming their kids, because maybe a name is one of the few things that they still can choose on the life of their children. In New Zealand, for instance, they've come up with crazy original ones, such as Midnight Chardonnay or Number 16 Bus Shelter. I think you agree with me that there is a sort of naming mania, because names are in fact distinctive marks that can shape our life as well as influence the life of the people we meet. So in a way, I hope that today, after listening to my story, next time you will ask someone, what's your name? You will be more intrigued by the answer. In fact, why don't we start right now? Why don't we ask our neighbor, what's your name? Most of the times, there is a fascinating story behind a name. A story that can inspire you or can guide and help your future choices. Because in the end, a name is much more than just a name. Thank you.